Language has always been a living, breathing organism, constantly shedding old skin and growing new layers to accommodate the shifting realities of human experience. We have seen the evolution from the countercultural slang of the 1960s to the digital shorthand of the early 2000s, and eventually to the viral vernacular of the TikTok era. However, in late 2025, we witnessed a seismic shift that left linguists, educators, and cultural commentators in a state of profound bewilderment. For the first time in recorded history, a major lexicographical institution, Dictionary.com, selected a numerical value as its word of the year. That word, or rather that number, is 67. To the uninitiated, this selection might seem like a clerical error or a practical joke, but to those who have been paying attention to the digital undercurrents of Generation Alpha, it represents the absolute zenith of a cultural phenomenon known as Brainrot. In 2024, Oxford University Press had already set the stage by naming Brainrot their word of the year, defining it as the consumption of hyper-stimulating, often nonsensical digital content that results in a perceived decline in cognitive function or attention span. If brain rot was the diagnosis in 2024, then 67 became the symptom, the cure, and the language, all wrapped into one by 2025. This decision by Dictionary.com marks a historic departure from traditional linguistics. In the past, words of the year were chosen because they captured the ethos of the time. Words like authentic, pandemic, or selfie. These words had clear definitions, etymologies, and utility in sentences. 67, by contrast, is an interjection that defies standard grammatical categorization. It is a signifier without a fixed signified. When a middle school student in 2025 shouts 67 across a hallway, they are not referring to the integer between 66 and 68. They are not discussing a quantity of items, nor are they referencing a year. They are engaging in a complex social ritual, a digital handshake that signals their participation in a specific, extremely online subculture. This phenomenon represents the peak of dopamine linguistics, where the value of a spoken phrase is not found in its ability to convey information, but in its ability to trigger a shared feeling of recognition and absurdity. It is the ultimate inside joke, one that has been scaled up to a global level by algorithmic recommendation engines. To understand why this number has conquered the English language, we must first understand the environment that allowed it to flourish. We are living in an era of post-meaning content. The narrative structures that defined entertainment for the entirety of the 20th century, beginning, middle, and end, have been dismantled and replaced by the loop, the stitch, and the remix. In this ecosystem, context is considered debris. The faster you can strip a sound or an image of its original context and repurpose it for a new, unrelated emotional trigger, the more viral potential it holds. 67 is the perfect example of this context collapse. It is a linguistic artifact that has been polished smooth by the river of the internet until it reflects whatever the user wants to see. For parents and teachers, this shift is often terrifying. It feels like a breakdown of communication itself. When a teacher asks a question about geography and a student responds with a deadpan 67, it feels like an act of rebellion. And in a way, it is. It is a rebellion against the expectation of seriousness. It is a rejection of the idea that language must always be functional. In the high-speed, high-stress, information-saturated world that Generation Alpha has inherited, making sense is optional. Making noise, however, is essential. The rise of 67 is not just a quirky footnote in a dictionary, it is a testament to how the internet has fundamentally rewired the way we process and produce speech. It validates the idea that in 2025, a vibe is more important than a definition, and belonging to the in-group is more important than being understood by the out-group. This is the era of brain rot, and 67 is its anthem. To truly grasp the magnitude of the 67 phenomenon, we must perform a sort of digital archaeology, digging through the layers of memes and viral edits to find the bedrock where this trend began. Like many internet phenomena that eventually reach the mainstream, the origins of 67 are gritty, specific, and far removed from the playgrounds where it is now chanted. The spark was lit in late 2024 with a drill track titled Doot Doot
6-7 by the Philadelphia-based rapper Skrilla. In the context of the song and the streets of Philadelphia, the number 67 was likely a reference to 67th Street, or, more grimly, the police code 1067, which designates a dead body investigation or a person calling for help. This is the first irony of the trend. A term rooted in the harsh realities of urban life and potential violence was almost immediately sanitized by the internet's content mill. The algorithm does not care about the origin of a sound. It only cares about the rhythm, the cadence, and the catchiness. As the audio snippet from Skrilla's track began to circulate on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, it was stripped of its grim connotations. The internet took the raw audio and began looking for a visual anchor, something to attach the sound to. This is where the trend took its first major pivot toward the absurd. Editors began pairing the audio clip of the phrase 6-7 with highlight reels of NBA superstar LaMelo Ball. Why LaMelo? The connection was tenuous but undeniable. LaMelo Ball stands exactly 6 feet 7 inches tall. In the logic of the internet, this coincidence was enough to forge an unbreakable bond. Suddenly, the drill rap ad-lib became a basketball reference. Videos of LaMelo making impossible passes or deep three-pointers were soundtracked by the rhythmic chant of 6-7. This phase of the trend moved the term from a niche music reference to a broader sports meme, widening its appeal significantly. But the trend had not yet reached critical mass. It needed a human face, a mascot that could translate the meme from the screen to the real world. Enter Maverick Trevelyan, known to history now as the 67 Kid. In early 2025, a video surfaced of this young boy at a youth basketball game. In the clip, Maverick looks into the camera with an intensity that defies his age and shouts the phrase 6-7 while performing a specific mesmerizing hand gesture, palms up, moving alternately in a seesaw motion. This was the moment of ignition. Maverick's delivery was not menacing like the original drill track, nor was it athletic like the LaMelo edits. It was pure, unfiltered enthusiasm. It was funny, it was weird, and it was replicable. The hand gesture gave the trend a physical component, transforming it from something you watched into something you did. Within weeks, the 67 Kid was everywhere. The audio from his video began to replace the original Skrilla track in popularity. Children across the world began mimicking the seesaw hand motion. It became a greeting, a celebration, and a way to fill awkward silences. The meme had successfully completed its metamorphosis, from a grim police code in Philadelphia to an NBA statistic to a global playground chant performed by millions who had no idea who Skrilla was or perhaps even who LaMelo Ball was. This evolution highlights the unique metabolism of modern culture. In the past, slang terms took years to migrate from a specific city to the general population. Now, that journey happens in weeks, and in the process, the original meaning is often completely devoured, leaving behind a husk that serves only as a vessel for collective participation. The transition of 67 is a perfect case study in semantic bleaching, the process where words lose their specific meaning and become broad, vague expressions of emotion. By the time Dictionary.com took notice, 67 had ceased to be a number. It had become a punctuation mark for a generation that lives life in portrait mode.
We cannot view 67 in isolation. It is merely the latest and most successful iteration of a larger cultural movement that includes predecessors like Skibbity Toilet, the Ohio meme, and the Phantom tax. These concepts form the pantheon of Brainrot, a connected universe of absurdity that defines the humor of Generation Alpha. Skibbity Toilet, which exploded in 2023, laid the foundation. It established the rules of engagement. Surrealism is king. Lore is complicated but ultimately meaningless, and repetition is the key to comedy. Skibbity Toilet prepared the digital soil for 67 to take root. It trained a generation of young viewers to accept content that bypassed logic and went straight to sensory overload. Then there was the Ohio meme, which peaked around 2024. Ohio became a slang term for anything strange, cursed, or inexplicable. If something went wrong, it was only in Ohio. By 2025, it became common to hear 67 and Ohio used in the same sentence, describing a situation that was both cringeworthy and nonsensical. And finally, we have the Phantom tax, a term popularized by streamers Kai Cenat and Phantom, referring to the act of stealing a portion of a friend's food. Like 67, Phantom tax became a shibboleth, a badge of belonging. If you knew what it meant to pay the Phantom tax, you were part of the culture. If you didn't, you were obsolete. 67 stands on the shoulders of these giants. It synthesizes the surrealism of Skibbity, the chaotic energy of Ohio, and the social signaling of Phantom tax into two simple syllables. Critics who dismiss this as the collapse of intelligence are missing the point. Every generation invents a language to exclude their elders. The difference now is the speed and the scale. 67 is not just a word, it is a mirror reflecting a world of algorithmic overload, where the only way to make sense of the noise is to join the chorus. Welcome to the era of brain rot. Welcome to 67.